in today's video we are going to build this pedal right here. It looks really cool and I'm really excited to show you it. I was super happy. I went to my local electricity store where I could buy like electrical parts and things like that. It's probably not called an electrical store. Anyway, and they had one last of these weird vintage style boxes. I have no idea anything about that, so if you ask me where you can get them, I don't know. I'm gonna post a link to a place where you can get them, but I did not buy it from there. It's just where I could find it, and so if the service or anything like that isn't good, I have no idea, because this was my local shop and he just said, oh, I found this box and I totally forgot about it. Is this something you would like? Because I've started to like befriend him, because you know he knows everything and I know nothing when it comes to cool parts like this. So you should always be friends with the ones working in stores. Anyway, it's gonna be a lot of fun. This is a clone rat from musikding and it's a super easy way to build. We'll go through it real quickly and then we'll listen to it at the end of the video. Yeah, so let's get going. Okay, so before we start building, we need our instructions. I've printed them out here. And the way this works, and it might seem a little bit like this is going to be a challenge and it's going to be hard, but I promise you, once you start doing it, you'll get a hang of it fairly quickly and you're going to be able to do this. It's not that hard. You have an outline of the circuit, and if you don't know how to read schematics, you don't need to worry, because all the numbers of the parts are written out and the value is written out. So for example, R, right here we have R13, and right under it it says 10K. And the thing that I think is great about this is that you sort of learn how to read the schematics while building it, because you realize, oh, all the boxes that are for all the R's, basically, they're all the same type of box, and you realize, oh, that's how a resistor looks in the schematics. And then you learn like, oh, that's how ground wires will look, and that's how diodes and capacitors and so on. And before you maybe you are really aware of it, you've actually learned things. Now you might not learn everything in building one pedal, but you know, then you might buy a couple of pedal kits. You get used to looking at schematics and seeing the same symbols show up more often, and before you know it, you get used to it and you start, you know, recognizing things and you find patterns in it and you learn. Yeah, so you need to print these out. If you buy one of these kits and you're like, there are no instructions, go back to their website, go back to the pedal, and you'll find in the description a parts list and a how to build guide and things like that. And you can have it on your phone or you can print it out, whatever works best for you. I printed it out because I want to have it in front of me as I work. Now you will have different bags for different parts. So here is a bunch of the hardware, or whatever you want to call it, like the switch and the output jacks and potentiometers, you know, the things that you interact with on the outside of the pedal. Package of wires, the transistors comes, and the diodes comes in one bag, the capacitors and things like that in one bag, and the op-amp and LED in another one. And here is the actual PCB. And that's what we're going to start off with and take a closer look at. So it looks sort of like this, and you have all the holes where you put the legs of the different parts into and you solder them in place. Push them in for this side, and then on the back is where you do the actual solder. And when you have a square box like this, that I have right here, that has an R in it, it's for a resistor. And when you have a square box like this, where a thicker line drawn in one end, and it says a D1 or something like that, a D something, it's for a diode. And right here I can see that they're two in line and they're facing in opposite directions, so that's probably where the clipping will go. And then you have little bigger boxes that are from the outside of the PCB like this, and that has something written like a C something. For example, here is a C2, and that's for a capacitor. So it's actually pretty easy to see what goes where. And then you have round one with C, and that is also for capacitor. You have the round ones that are circles, and they have a plus and a minus, and those are for the electrolytic capacitors. And then right here is for the IC chip or op-amp or whatever it is going into this. It's probably an op-amp. And then you will also have labels like 9V is for 9 volt, in is for the signal in, GN is ground, out is for the output jack or the out of the switch. And that's basically all you need to know about that. Take a closer look at it, make sure you put your parts in the right place and that you're not mistaking a diode for a resistor or something like that. But if you do a careful job and you double check everything before you solder it in place, you're not going to have any issues. It's going to work fine for you. Last week I made another pedal and I went a lot more into details on that one. So if this isn't enough, because here I'm basically just glancing it over because I'm trying it out to trying to find like what is best to just glance over and explain it quickly like this, or do a really deep dive. I'm not sure what is best, so I made two very different kinds of videos so that you can let me know which one you prefer. But if you feel like I really glanced everything over right now, go back and look at that video where I build a Cherry Fuzz pedal, a really fun pedal, and look at that video. Anyway, now I'm just going to solder all the components into place. Okay, so as you can see here, I've pushed a couple of resistors through. They're in the place they're supposed to go. I've made sure of that, I've double checked and all that. And then I've pushed the legs through. As you can see, they are sticking out. And I've bent them away a little bit so that when I lift it up and I turn it around, they don't fall out. And now I'm just going to put it down like this, and I'm just going to take my solder. And because these are sort of small tiny parts, I'm just using some thin solder wire here. I hope you can see what I'm doing. It's, you know, small and fiddly parts and it's kind of hard to show. And I'm just holding it in place, feeding some solder in to it, and it will melt and they will flow together and it becomes a tiny little bubble. And I'll just do that to all of them like this. And you just need a tiny little droplet. And then I have these special wire cutters that are for cutting off the legs of resistors and other parts. And I cut as close as I can without actually touching the place. So I hold it directly over and I cut. So it becomes like a small bubble or hill. Almost looks like a video game slime. And now I'm just going to go through and solder everything else in place. I'm going to move on to the resistors now. Here is a resistor and I'm going to find where to put it. And it's actually super simple because it says right here that the resistor is going to be up here. Is a 1N4007, which is kind of a funny name. And if I just look at the resistor, there are writings on it. And it says 1N4007. So I know it's the same. And so now I just need to bend the legs. And look, it says that D3 is where it goes. And it has a little ring on it, which I doubt that you can see. And there is a little mark on the PCB. And I'm just going to put it so that both of them are matching up. And I'll bend the legs out like this so it can't fall. And now I'm just going to solder it in place. Once I've soldered it in place, I'm just going to solder the other two resistors in place. And the same thing goes with them. It's just written on them what they are. And you don't have to worry anymore about it than that. So it's actually super simple. I know some of this will maybe seem harder than it is, but it really isn't. So if you've never built a pedal before, you are gonna be able to do this without much trouble at all. And I understand that it might seem like this is really hard to do, but it's not. And I believe in you, so you should believe in you. Just saying. Okay, so the chip that comes with the kit comes with this little socket thing. And the reason why we use these are because then we don't need to solder directly, and they're very sensitive to heat, so soldering to this directly instead will prevent any burning or anything. It has a tiny little indentation, and you just make sure everything lines up with that indentation. It looks sort of like a half circle, half moon, kind of, you know, that sort of shape. And you have it on the PCB and in the plastic of this thing, and also on the actual IC. So you just line them all up, basically. Also, something that I've been told not to do, but that I feel you can do, is when you push the thing through, you can bend the legs a little bit in so that it grips almost like a claw, and then you solder it in place. I've heard that you're not supposed to do that because you might break the legs, but I've never had that be the case. They can take a lot more damage than you might think. But as long as you make sure you put it in the right direction, you won't have trouble having to, you know, take it out, because that might be problematic. Okay, so this is probably going to be kind of difficult to explain, but you have this, all these capacitors have different shapes on the PCB. So if we look right here, we have something that is more rounded and more circle-like right down here. And we see how they look here, which is just two black little boxes next to each other. Then we have these circle shaped one. And the way they look is that they are also boxes, but one is white and one is black, like you can see up here, or maybe here in the middle where C5 is a little bit more easy to see. You'll obviously see this much easier when you're actually building this. It might be a little bit weird me explaining it now, but that basically just means that it has a plus and a minus side, and you just have to look here on the actual place for it, and you'll see a tiny little plus, and you can see where to put it. Now the electrolytic capacitors, the ones that come in this bag here, as you can see, hopefully, they have two legs, and one side has a gray line, and that's the minus side. So you just have to look and see, oh, there's the plus, and put the colored line on the opposite side. And then you just have to match up the numbering on the place with the number of the PCB. For example, C4 is a 33P, and it's right here. So I'm just going to take this little one and put it into C4, so just like that. And it doesn't say that it has to go in with one leg in one direction or anything like that, because it's not polarized that way. So I can just put it in, and I don't really have to care about which leg goes in what hole. Okay, so we're going to put in the last piece now, which is the transistor, and it looks like this. Hope you can see it. I'm gonna try to show you. It has three little legs that sticks out, and it has this black body, and hopefully you can see that it's flat on one side and looks like a half circle on the other. And if we look right up here where it's supposed to go, hopefully you can see that it's 3 holes for the legs, and then there is a half bowed little circle part under there. And that means that this one will go in with the circle facing same direction as the picture on the PCB, like this. So make sure you don't do things the other way around. Now, this kit came with this little holder for it that I have right here. It's very small. And you put those in so that you won't have to heat this up, because these can easily break with heat. And that's why I have a soldering iron where I can change the heat. But I'm going to use this anyway, because I actually think these are great. Because if I feel like changing the sound of this and experiment and modify it, a very easy way to mix around and experiment is to change this out. So having this able to just pull out real quickly is actually a really good idea. So we're going to use this, solder it in place, and then just stick that in there. Okay, so here we have everything in its place, and right here we have some connections, and all we're going to do now is we're going to take some of these wires that I have right here, and we're just going to put them in place. The first one is 9 volt, and it usually means the plus side of a 9 volt. So we're going to use red to just screw off the upper part and stick it through like so, and we'll solder it in place. The next one is in. I'm going to use blue for that. Peel off the tip and stick it in. Now what I mean peel off the tip is, if you look at them, which I hope you can see, they have a tip that you can just peel off like that. Next one is ground, and I like to always have ground be black, because then I don't have to think. I know that if I see a black wire, I know immediately, without any hesitation, that it is a ground wire. So black is ground. Out will be this green wire, like so. So now we have some color coding going on, and we'll just flip this over. We'll just flip them over like so, and now we can put some solder down. And this might be a little bit fiddly, because we should try to hold the wires in place at the same time. But that's where helping hands come in place, and I can use one of my helping hands like this to hold the wires in place. And now I don't have to worry about anything in life ever again. So that's kind of nice. That's why you need a helping hand. So I'll just hold that there. We'll take the soldering iron and we'll just flood these something like that. And if I release, it all looks good the way it's supposed to be, basically. And just give it a once over, make sure everything looks nice. Okay, so here's the pedal right now, and all I've done is I've put all the components in the right place. And I'm gonna wire this up now, and it's super easy to do. Everything is written the way it's supposed to go, so you have just the labeling. Now, it has two 9 volt, for example, but that's for if you want to put in a battery clip, which I'm not gonna use because I don't like to have a bunch of bulky things inside the pedal, and I'm never using batteries anyway, so I might as well just skip that whole ordeal and just wire them in. It says ground, it's obviously ground connections. It said things like in and out, and it's, you know, in and out. So I'm just gonna put some wires in, and hopefully you'll like it. Okay, so now all wires are connected. These 4 wires go to their connections here. Basically just, you know, jumper, and then there's the jack out and the ground wire twisted together. Gonna go over here real soon. And then the jack in and ground wire twisted together. Gonna go to this jack here. Super simple. Now I'm gonna twist these wires together as well, just like this, just because that's how you're supposed to do. And then I'm gonna put this over here and I'm gonna start connecting these wires up here to the pots that are on the bottom here. And I've done a little thing that I don't know if you can see, but it's an experiment that I'm trying out on this pedal, and I'm gonna see if I can find somewhere where you can see it. But I took the legs and I just bent them over and made them into little hooks. And it's just because these pots are not supposed to be used to put wires on, and I know it's not really a good idea to put wires on them because they're not supposed to be used that way, but this way maybe I can use them that way. So that's what I'm gonna try. See you in a bit. So there you have the wires. They're all connected. It looks a little bit messy maybe, but it actually is all color coded and the way it's supposed to be. So it actually is really nice. Now there are two wires up here. They are the plus and minus, and they need to go into this jack right here, which I hope you can see. And this connection here is the ground, and not the middle, but the one down here. Show you one down here, not this one in the middle, but this one down here is the lead. If you're going to put in a battery clip, it's going to go to the one in the middle. Okay, so the pedal is put together and I can move this about and put it where I want it. But first I'm going to do something that I do a lot of the times to pedals, because there is always a rat's nest inside and it's always kind of messy unless you're doing it super clean with the pots attached to the PCB and things like that. But I usually try to find a new weird way of putting the knobs and things like that, or a new kind of box or something, so it always looks somewhat like a mess. So here I have the plastic bag all the parts came in, and I'm just gonna put the PCB in it as good as I possibly can. I'll try my best, and that will just make sure that nothing is touching anything, something like this. And now I am ready to just turn this around a little bit like this and put the back plate over like so, and everything will be nice. So now I am just gonna screw this on real quick. Okay, so here is the pedal now, and all we have to do is put on the knobs like so. No, I'm kidding. We obviously are gonna screw them down. So I'm just gonna try to find a place where screwing them down will make them sit nice and where they will also move nicely. So what I mean by that, which is I need an even space. So when it's down there and I move it over there, it has a certain equalness to it. So I'm just gonna try to figure out one knob. This one is pretty okay right now. And then I'm just gonna put the next knob down and try to match them up and align them correctly and not drop them. And just try to find what looks right. And I screw the potentiometer all the way down so that I know what is the lowest. So basically, before I screw anything on, like this knob here, I screw it all the way down and then I screw them on. So yeah. Okay, so here you have the pedal. This is what it looks like right now. I am super happy with it. I think it looks really cool. I really like the box. I was very lucky to find it. And it does look like a weird, rare version of a rat, which in some way you could say that it is, because there's only one of them, especially since I actually blended two different hammer lacquers together to make a unique color. So even if you try to build this one, you might not actually be able to blend colors together to get the exact same color as me. You'll probably get close enough that it's, irrelevant, but I'm sticking to my guns on this one. Anyway, let me know what you think, and if you find this interesting, also let me know which way of making a pedal video you prefer, the one I did last week or the one I'm doing now. And we're gonna go and play the pedal now. Obviously on Friday there's gonna be another of those cool background videos, and we're gonna get to hear it a little bit more in detail. I'm gonna, mic things up a little bit more proper and things like that. But for now, let's just go and listen to it. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing and liking the video, I would appreciate if you did. It lets me know that you like the video, if you like it, so that, I'll continue making more videos. So please do that. Also, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, I would appreciate if you're subscribing. I'm trying to make the channel bigger. I'm trying to come up with more fun experiments, and I want you along for those. I feel like you're an awesome person. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, until next time, stay awesome and cool and go and build yourself a rat. And no, not, a Frankenstein monster rat thing. That would be cool, and if you can get away with it. But you need a pedal, you need a rat. It's awesome, it's cool. It's a lot of fun, so you can build it, and if you don't like it, you can always give it to a friend.